Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to F1 Manager. This is episode 16. Next up is Zandvoort. It's a back-to-back, in fact, second of three in a row. And of course, we're catching up on real life now as we just had Zandvoort. Now, looking at the car attributes required, this is a track that we are built for right now. Acceleration, okay, well, we're not great there, but our acceleration's not awful. We're just barely behind Aston Martin in that one. But the medium and high speed corners are crucial, and that's our strength. High speed is especially. Sections by speed, you can see that there's only one slow section on track, and you're looking at a lot of fast sections, and the straights are short. Straights are very short, so a lot of high speed corners and a few medium speed corners means we're going to be well suited, I think, towards this track and could be even more competitive than we were in the last race. Porsche adding another point for development. It's going to obviously go to reactions again until we bring that at least to 75. So it's at 59 now. Still not enough to reach level 74, but we know it's coming and coming soon. Probably in the next couple race weekends, I would think. A 60 might be enough to get him to a 74 overall. I wasn't necessarily planning on doing it terribly soon, but as it only costs 3.5 million, Team Hub weekly experience for the staff gain is worth it. So we're gonna go ahead and do the next level here. Amazing thing, even though we're still in the first season and we just upgraded the helipad from non-existent to level 5, it somehow already dropped down in terms of quality level, and so we had to refurbish it already at a little bit of a cost. I mean, it was definitely not nothing. So, awfully short time span on that one to be dropping. By the way, before we jump into our next race, here's just a quick update on how things are looking in the standings. First, the constructors. Of course, we are ninth place. Aston Martin has yet to score any points. And now, those 11th, 12ths really don't matter. It's just beating Aston Martin on a given day is the biggest thing. And then seeing if we can't compete for points otherwise becomes the secondary target. I do think we're already too far back from McLaren on up, and I do think we're probably too far back of Haas already, but you never know. I mean, we've still got a chance. I wouldn't rule out scoring points one or two more times this season, but getting much higher than ninth place seems highly unlikely, so I don't think we're going to really catch up, compete with Haas at this point. Just feels they're a bit too far out of reach for this season. But of course, I've made it quite clear what my goal is. Build up the financial structure, which we now have in place, so that next season we bring in way more money and then rapidly develop the car next year. This year, okay, whatever, fine. Ninth place, no problem. But Haas, a ways behind McLaren, a ways behind AlphaTauri. It's a little surprising that McLaren is struggling this bad in game, that they're only 7th best when, okay, sure, real life, they started off a little slow, but as the season progressed, they've often been the 3rd or 4th best. I think they are 5th in points right now, just a little behind Alpine in real life. AlphaTauri, Alfa Romeo, looking a little strong. And Alfa Romeo did look a little strong at the beginning of the season, but as the season's progressed, I think they've been, pretty distant as that 6th, 7th, looking often how McLaren has here, consistent point scorers, but nothing major. Alpine, 96, I mean, that one feels about right. Mercedes, usually well clear of those guys, but not always. They've often been competing with them. They've just often been the best of the rest. And that feels pretty consistent with how real life has gone most of the season until, really the last few races where Mercedes is clearly starting to emerge as the 3rd strongest team and inching their way up to the top 2, where here Ferrari has been almost identical in speed to Red Bull, but often just ahead of them. I think that's true to how real life has been, but the reason why Red Bull is dominating in the constructor standings in real life is that Ferrari's had unreliability, which they haven't had here in game. In game, Ferrari has been as reliable as anybody. We've seen them run wide a couple times, we've seen them spin once, but otherwise they haven't been caught up. They haven't had the DNFs, so they recover. They get to the front of the field. And then they've been just beating the Red Bull. And Perez especially has been a little bit lower on pace, which has lowered their grand total. But we're at around 15 of 25. So we are definitely getting down there towards the later part of the season. In terms of the points, Latifi dead last. Stroll now ahead of Vettel, even though they haven't scored. And Pourchaire is ahead of both. So Pourchaire has had a higher finish. But he also has a DNF. That's a first. Apparently, he's now done as many races as Latifi did. Wow, we've moved pretty quick. Tsunoda just scored his first point of the season. He's had one DNF so far. And Albon, who was 15th, Schumacher, scored his first two. So both of these guys in that last race in Spa scored points for the first time this season, benefiting from those DNFs. And Hamilton in the back of the grid after his crash and never, being able to recover a car. Not quite on pace after that. Tiniest chance of still, inching your way up towards these guys. We're almost competitive with them. We're always just behind them now. But it's Leclerc who has a pretty slender lead. It's only 16 points. But it's ahead of Sainz. Verstappen is a little ways back, but he's still in touching distance. 49 points isn't insurmountable this late in the season. Perez is definitely too far back.
It's another historic weekend of Formula One here at Zandvoort. The track has seen many unforgettable moments, like Gilles Villeneuve's three-wheeled lap at the 1979 Dutch Grand Prix, which cost him victory. What excitement lies ahead this year? There's never a dull moment at Circuit Zandvoort. It's fast, very fast, with long straights and wide curves. But it also features two heavy banked corners, where aerodynamic improvements are sure to help our drivers. This is it. We're down to the last few races of the season, and it's time for that final push. Who will be crowned champion at the end of it all? We'll find out soon enough. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Formula One.
Moderate rain on Saturday and heavy rain Sunday predicted for the race. This could be a real opportunity for us if we play our cards right. We've already played them right once and misplayed them the other time we've had a wet race, but we learned a lot. We learned a lot that last time out, and I think Sunday could be a point scoring type day for us potentially, but let's see if we're in the mix Friday pace wise. FP1, we always close things down as we move along. Where we're at right now though, Pourchaire is getting in there. We're already starting to close up. Though I expect others are going to have, a similar kind of run-in of getting faster and faster as time goes on. But what we have is we're a good 7-8 tenths ahead of the Aston Martins. We are massively ahead of them at this track. So our high-speed cornering is making a massive difference, along with our medium for that matter. But we are almost there. We're almost on the Haas's pace. We're almost on the McLaren's pace. And, we're not that far off of Tsunoda. Gasly, yes. Gasly's a ways ahead. But even the Alpines are only 4 or 5 tenths ahead of us. Much closer than we've been. So we'll see how the weekend transpires. And if we can, in the wet, looks like we might just be able to compete if we make the right moves at the right time. And if we can get the setup down. So we'll see what we can do with the setup. I'm excited for this one. By the way, just for acknowledging what this is going to kind of mean for us, 39% is the setup confidence that we just ran with for Pourchaire. Yet we were competitive with the mid-pack, just off of where the mid-pack is. So got some high hopes. But there is news. We'll get to the news a little later, though. Meanwhile, Albon did it on 24% confidence. Just really bad. And yet still put in pretty competitive times. Now, you only gain so much getting that confidence down, but you do gain. So I'm excited. Following the first day of the first 2 practice sessions, we enter day 3, and here was that news that I was waiting to share with you. Even though I'm feeling confident about the car for this race weekend, we unfortunately are going to be taking a penalty with Albon anyway. So hopefully Pourchaire can perform. His pace is so close to what Albon's is, but not quite there. Not quite. So he's a little off, which is going to hurt our chances a little bit. But weather pending, things could still happen. But here's what those penalties are going to look like. So the engine is all the way down to 40%. It's already taking minor damage. It's not going to be good if we continue to use it. And all three of our engines are there. So it's time for a new engine. We're going to spend $1 million on that. And now that we are taking a grid penalty and switching to this, we already qualified near the back. So instead of taking a partial penalty when you're already at the back, we're going to take the full penalty. So we're going to get the new ERS as well, though this one could be used for another race as the season goes on, but we're going to spend that $1 million on another one. And same for the gearbox. Even though it's at 70%, it's not going to make it the rest of the season. It's going to make it 2 to 3 more races, which means we need at least one more gearbox to make it to the end of the season. So we're going to go ahead and take that now as well. And now we're definitely guaranteed to go to the back of the grid. But considering how far back we tend to be anyway, I think the fact that we have the fresh engine could be good for us. Now, it's hard to pass at Zandvoort. That's the main problem. It's not just that we could potentially perform well here. It's that it's hard to make passes. But wet weather is a very different story. And I think in the wet, passing could be a lot easier to do. But how are our two drivers when it comes to those variable conditions? Well, I'm guessing Albon's going to be a bit better than Pourchaire, just based on, he's a +8 on the overall rating. And if their pace is close, that +8 came from somewhere within those ratings. And I haven't looked directly at what their wet weather attribute would be, which is that reactions? I think it's reactions. So, yeah, I don't know exactly where those two are at when it comes to their reactions attribute. FP3, rain beginning to fall. It's still fairly dry on the track, but it looks like we are going to pit in here fairly soon for this one. As, I think one more lap around, we'll have to bring them in. Switch to the intermediates. For practice, no big deal. But one positive thing, it's early in this session, we can see where our pace is compared to everybody else. For one thing, Mercedes, temporarily on top anyway, but we are right in between the two Haas cars. We're very close to Magnussen. We're ahead of Schumacher. We're close to Norris. We're ahead of Ricciardo. And we are a full second ahead of the Aston Martins initially. And now that we're approaching the desired level for intermediates, looks like these times are actually going to hold up at least for a while. Alonso not putting in a representative time, but everybody else getting in, a few laps. We're only 12 minutes into the session, so we're talking about 2, 3, 4 representative laps. It looks like it's going to start drying out, is it? A few sprinkles now is all, so the track is staying exactly where it's at. For one of the first times, if not the first time, we get the max bonus for both drivers. I've picked up on the fact that, and I think I may have briefly mentioned this last episode, but your staff is the primary reason on how long it takes to get setup knowledge, to get feedback about it. And that determines how quickly you can honestly set up the car. It's not hard to necessarily do it, but it's hard to do it within the window that they're giving you. So without upgrading the staff, starting at a bottom feeder team such as Williams, it makes it a lot harder. If you instantly upgrade your staff, you'll find your setups come easier, but it's going to be expensive to do so. Right now, we're very much hanging on to that money and trying to just grow internally with what we have regarding that one. And so for me, setup confidence, remains a process that we are kind of barely pulling off. Track climatization also only at 96% for Albon. Not having those lengthy runs where you just continually go, coming back in immediately when you get that setup confidence feedback, makes it harder to get. Pourchaire hit his in FP2, So we easily got the track acclimatization by having just 2 long runs in FP3. One in the dry, one in the wet. He just went continually otherwise. So we easily got him where he was and actually had him back in the garage with 10 or 15 minutes to spare in the session because we were done. We've done what we needed to do to get the maximum out of this. Albin, 96% is enough. That's why we got that 15, but he just reached that in the end of FP3. So it's looking like things aren't actually going to matter much for us, whatever we do in qualifying. So Albin, a plus 19 grid penalty for all the new engine parts that we've thrown on. That's almost guaranteed to put him in last place, as there's only 3 drivers with regular grid penalties. But Pourchaire, the wreck that took him out of the last race with just a few laps to go, instead of just picking up a 5-second penalty, he's been given a grid penalty for this next race. It's only plus 3, but it's going to make it a lot harder for him to start anywhere other than just ahead of Albin. It's not race done for us, but it's going to be ridiculously hard to try to get into the points if we're starting from the back row.
Let's take a look at the replay.
Pourchaire just spun on his flying lap here during qualifying, so that's not helping anything. My plan was for Albin to only run a single lap, so we're going to be done with Albin here in a moment. Pourchaire, 3-spot grid penalty does not make it impossible to be higher than 19, so we'll give it a shot. But that's obviously not the right start. In fact, we need to just call him in. Rain is falling here in Q1. Albin, one of the only ones who's gotten a time in so far. Pourchaire, his spin might have cost him everything here, but he is outrunning with the majority of the grid. Albin's going to probably get out of Q1 without even trying, and he's got that giant grid. Wow. And we are having some bad luck here. Of course, Pourchaire spinning out isn't necessarily a bad luck thing. I mean, it's just a bad moment from him. That's one of the things. That's one of the trade-offs. We've got a good young driver who has good pace, but because of his other ratings aren't as high, until we bring those up, he is going to be a little more error-prone. But only a little, not by much. But I do absolutely think that Albin is going to easily get out of Q1 now unless the rain stops very soon and the track dries out. But clearly times are going to be affected here. Rain has stopped with 8.5 minutes left in the session, but we're at full wet conditions. It's going to take a while to dry out. I think we're going to get back to an intermediate condition, and we're going to wait for that one to go out there, and that should be able to get the likes of Pourchaire to improve his time. But Albin's done. He's not going to run another lap. There's no way that the track's going to dry out in just 8 minutes, and so his time is going to stand. He is going to be 5th place and into Q2. But of course, we've got that grid penalty. The only good thing is it's going to bump somebody. It's going to put somebody else in a spot of bother and mess up their day. We'll take it. We get a little bonus for getting into Q2. Really unlucky. Well, not unlucky. Pourchaire spun out on his own accord. It's not a matter of not being lucky. But he is going to struggle. And we're going to set to intermediates and get him ready. And wait for the track to dry out a little bit and send him towards the end. Because the track's drying. So unless we see that rain is imminent, the track's going to get faster, not slower. Which means Pourchaire will probably be out, but we can still outrace the Aston Martins. Possibly. Where are they at? They are not in that Stroll is. Stroll put in a 4.2 second time off the gap, so it was a little slower. Vettel, for sure, we could beat. Stroll, I don't know if we'll beat that time. How far will we be off with the intermediates? I don't know. But here we go, everybody onto that last lap. Maybe we could beat Schumacher or Magnussen. Maybe no, not the McLarens. McLaren's got their lap in. Ride with Pourchaire as he goes times 2 speed. Still on the warm-up lap right now. I do think this will be a better time than what he has, and we have rain on the way in just a few minutes. I think we should be able to finish. I mean, we've got 10 seconds to go till we cross the start-finish line, and the lap should take us about a... All right, let's start seeing those times coming down. McLaren, first one across the line. His time's not going to improve. Albon's already done. Norris is now done. Did he improve his time? No, so 3.92 is not a good time. It looks like 5 to 6 seconds. 5 to 6 seconds. So that means Stroll's going to be safe. Stroll's going to get out of Q1. That's bad news for us. Albon, that would be good news, but the grid penalty is going to take that back away. Vettel, 7 seconds behind. Schumacher, 6.5. See if Porsche can beat that. He was actually green in the second sector. He'll be green in the third sector too, because I think he spun in the second sector. He's definitely down on his first sector time though. Obviously, dry condition versus, well, damp condition versus spun out in the rain. Or was it even raining yet? Last one across the line, and we move up to P18. 3-spot grid penalty. We beat Schumacher, we beat Vettel. Not enough to get off the back of the grid. So, yeah, 18th. So starting from the back row. But let's hope that rain, we get something similar in the race to this. Coming and going, ebbing and flowing, dry track, wet track. We know the limitations now on how this thing works. After the last race, which unfortunately was a little bit of a debacle, but that first one, we really benefited from it. Australia, I believe it was. I think we can benefit from it now that we know. So I'm sending Albon out first just to get a time in, and it's going to be his only lap, just like before. So we'll see if the rain comes. Otherwise, he's obviously going to be out here in Q2, not only because he's the first one out there and the track's going to be ramping up, especially after it was wet. Track rubber is very, very low right now. Grip, seeing it normally, you can see how far off the pace Albon was. He probably even came up behind some cars, but right now, ahead of Alonso anyway, ahead of Stroll. Stroll well off the pace, ahead of Ricardo. Russell and Bottas will be faster though, but it'd be nice if we, on merit, qualified P12. Well, still not really on merit because we got out of Q1 because of this. But it shows. He is faster than some of these guys, especially Stroll. Especially. Ricardo and Alonso can probably put in better times. We're not wasting, even if it's raining in the race, we're saving the tires. There's no point wasting the engine or anything like that with the grid penalty we have. And it's P14, just ahead of Stroll. So at least Stroll's only 15th. He'll move up the one spot with us going backwards, but him starting from 14th isn't too bad. And Vettel's in the back 5, so we should still be able to easily beat the Aston Martins in this race. Except it is hard to overtake here. But what conditions should help with that?
Drivers are strapping themselves in, ready for race day.
Qualifying went well for Williams, as attested by their strong position on the grid. Now it's all about finding that edge for the race itself. Haas proved quite resourceful during qualifying. That puts them in a very good position to make the most of this race start. We've been having sunny weather here today, but there are some clouds looming that might complicate things for teams further down the line.
So it's time for some fighting between the sand dunes, here at the Dutch Grand Prix.
Based on the weather report, it looks like we're going soft wets, probably back to mediums unless the track takes a really long time to dry out. As we've already seen, you don't want to switch to intermediates and run there. The wets will do just fine as the track dries out, and then you've got to wait until the track's just about to break under that 1.0, and then it's time to go onto the soft compound. So timing's everything. If it takes a really long time to dry out the track, if it's really that wet, then we might have a soft stint, but otherwise got a few plans here kind of based on timing, and especially if the rain starts a little sooner, then we'll be on the wets a little longer, but it depends mostly on how long the rain lasts. But it's a heavy shower. It's a heavy shower, and it's only going to be a few laps of running till you get to that heavy shower, so you might as well go straight to the wets be a little off the pace, lose 4 or 5 seconds, but ultimately gain, as opposed to running intermediates and then shifting to the wets.
I don't want to tempt fate, but there are quite a few clouds overhead as we look at the lineup on the grid. Here's Williams. They're starting in the bottom half of the grid today, so there's a lot of cars between them and the podium. And then we've got Alex Albon. Slower than most yesterday, so today they'll be starting from the bottom half of the grid. The race start is mere seconds away. The drivers are ready and the crowds are waiting. It's the Dutch Grand Prix. It's lights out and away we go.
Alright, so the lights didn't go out. The lights are still on, but anyway. One thing we noticed about the race in real life is we go three-way with the Mercedes to the outside and squeeze him towards the edge of the track, but he ends up squeezing us back in. So that is Albon, who is side by side with Hamilton. So Hamilton taking some penalties today as well, and he ends up finding himself back where he was. So it's P18 and P20, which is where we started. But look at this move by Porsche to the inside, 3 wide. He's getting ahead of the Aston Martin, and he's still side by side with the AlphaTauri of Tsunoda. What a move there, but here comes the response as Vettel again makes it 3 guys side by side. Now, in real life, it did turn out that you could race a little more this year at Zandvoort than you could the year prior with the new generation of the car. But of course, the game, how would they know that? How would it reflect that when the race just happened a week ago? And meanwhile, the game's been out for a few weeks now, and definitely would have already been set on what they thought of the tracks quite a while back, and how difficult it is to overtake. So far, so good on that one. We do eventually settle in behind the 2 AlphaTauris ahead of Vettel and Albon to the back for now. It's going to be really hard to beat Hamilton. Hamilton goes around Vettel, though, so that could make that one a possibility for us as we, again, challenge the AlphaTauri. We get him to the inside there on the banked turn. Is that 3? Porsche looking to make another move. He's got the other AlphaTauri to the outside, and then he's got Stroll holding up Schumacher. And we do have the cornering. The cornering has been good for us. These guys aren't really hitting full speed, especially with the Aston Martin holding them up. And while we are being aggressive here, it's paying off. We're up to P15. Albon ahead of Vettel, so he's in P19. If Hamilton and Albon can start making their way through, we can get ahead of the AlphaTauris with Albon as well. But Porsche, what a drive from him to start this race. Schumacher to the outside of Stroll. Can we take advantage of their battling and maybe squeeze past one of them? We're having a look at Schumacher now in tight. We come off the exit of turn 3 to the inside, but can't make the move. But here we are, still hot on his tail. Looking to the outside. And he gives us some room, but we're going to tuck back in. Check battery empty.
Okay, copy.
For Albon. That's Albon. He's half a second behind Gasly. Hamilton has gotten by. And we are past Mick Schumacher, and we've got Stroll to the inside. Battery empty, though. Battery empty. Wow, look how fast you drop back when that battery empties out. Gotta go neutral now. Gotta tuck in. That close to be into the front of that train. In which case, then the ERS wouldn't matter in the same way. Settle down, put your head down, and probably drive away from Stroll, who's clearly off pace. Stroll's 3.6 back already. But now we're under threat from anybody, everybody. Quickly going backwards. Schumacher has gotten past Stroll. If he loses it, we'll easily pass him. We might pass him anyway. We've got him to the inside, but it switches to the outside. We stay side by side? I think so? No, we tuck in. Now we have another look to the inside. Oh, not the button I wanted to push, but we do as we head onto the straight.
Doing what you're
Complete the
doing.
move. Move complete ahead of Stroll. Now we'll close in on Schumacher. Now, I don't mind staying behind Schumacher a little bit longer here, as behind Schumacher, we can continue to push and harvest. Get that ERS back up. Now, meanwhile with Albin very much caught behind this group, but if he's having a look right now on Gasly, P18, that's the lowest we've seen him all season. But if we can follow Hamilton through here, no, we can't. Oh, what are you doing, Albin? That is just ridiculous. You're going to back out of it by hitting the brakes, and all you needed to do is lift just a little bit, and it'll open that gap and you'll tuck in. You did not have to brake, but okay. This guy's still battling it out, and Stroll's still holding this up. Stroll's already more than a second behind. And wow, look at Albin having a go at Hamilton. And again, no reason for that. Loses more than a second. He's going to lose DRS. He'll close up on it. It's Stroll. But he's 1.3 back. Just like that. From a near pass to 1.3 back, because they brake to get out of it as opposed to just lifting and tucking in. Porsche up to 13th. Now remember, it's going to rain, so when that rain comes, 40% chance. We're closing in on that. It's lap 7. 40% chance. This could come a lot sooner. Hamilton has gone around Gasly and is right on Stroll, and Stroll's a much easier pass. Huge pace difference. He's already got him to the inside, and he completes the move. Hamilton's going to start driving away. That means Albin is going to need to try to get by these guys sooner rather than later if he still wants to himself be involved in the race down the line. Vettel already fallen off. He's about 4 seconds back. Porsche back around Schumacher. Alright, we finally got around Stroll. So we've got a chance to start driving away from him here in a little bit. Albin past Stroll. That's Aston Martin's down to 19th and 20th, even though they both had much better starting grid positions than they normally do. And we're already starting to pull away from Stroll, and we're to the inside here. We've got him to the inside of turn 1, outside turn 2, and we complete the move. Maybe? Can we get him off the exit? We do. All right, finally, after we get through turn 3, and we're starting to pull away as Gasly kind of tucked in, letting off a little bit. But Stroll is more than a second off the back of Gasly, and we might be able to drive away from Gasly here, possibly. But we are going to have to, well, we'll just go neutral. If we pull Gasly along, it's okay. We're not pulling Stroll along. That's the key one. Back with Porsche. Porsche has been caught by Hamilton, who brought Schumacher back up with him. Or actually, I think Schumacher was here all along, but 4.8 behind. I'd love for Hamilton to get by. Let's go ahead and go balanced for a little bit. Hamilton can help pull us forward. We are actually racing, and it's Porsche. It's not Albin. We are racing head-to-head with Lewis Hamilton. Even if he's on the mediums, I mean, that's pretty crazy. That's wild.
Running wide there?
Bottas running wide in turn 2. It's going to back him up a little bit. It's lap 13. Let's check in with things for a moment while we continue on here. Leclerc leads from Verstappen and Perez and Sainz. Those 4 very close. Russell is 5th, but unlike in all the previous races, he's not 8, 9, 14 seconds behind. Russell's 2 seconds down. So Mercedes has pace, yet here we are battling with Hamilton. Yes, Hamilton started from 19th, but Porsche started 18th.
It's a race position gain.
There he
for
is.
Mercedes.
I mean, that's so awesome. And that we are almost keeping up, but slow down for a second. Back to a push. Back to a push to try to keep up.
Look at reducing the lift and
We want to stay with Hamilton if we can. He's very quickly out to 9/10 of a second, though, after passing us. DRS here, though, could help pull us back in a little bit. Yeah, we pulled back a couple tenths there. So we want to stay on Hamilton's wheel as best we can because he can drag us up towards Ricardo, Ocon, Magnussen, which means, depending on how things go in the wet, could actually put us in a points battle later on, especially if other teams make
more rain is coming.
a mistake. Rain predicted in the near future. It is a sprinkle right now. It is sprinkling right now. Track is staying dry, but we are getting a little bit of a mist. Now, back to Albon. What's going on with Albon? Albon is 2.5 seconds behind Tsunoda. We are ahead of Gasly. We've stayed ahead of Gasly. That's how racy we are today. We are beating with one car both AlphaTauris. We've beaten one. Can't quite catch up to the other. Stroll, 9.5 seconds back already. Vettel, another 4 seconds behind that. That's the car that was faster than us. Now, this track suits us more than them. There is that. But we have clearly, with just 2 upgrades, made some pretty substantial gains. And here it comes. The rain is beginning to fall. Rain is beginning to fall. Back off. Risk of
You can afford to drop
risk
back.
of messing it up is very high right now. And I think we're going to need to pit this lap. It's coming down hard and fast. We are going to have to double stack. Can we afford to? We're about 5 seconds apart as Schumacher has gotten around Pourchaire.
Seems to be quite slippery.
We do have, it's a double stack scenario. Totally a double stack scenario. The only bad thing here for us is that one Aston Martin got into the pits already. They're going to be faster on this lap. They're too far back though. We're not going to lose that much time over the lap, but not all the teams are double stacking. Not all the teams are double stacking. You can see Leclerc, Perez, even Russell stayed out. Russell stayed out. Why? Let's see if he can get out without something getting into his way as well. He does. Okay, Albon's in. And Albon is held up for a moment. He's held up for a moment as Gasly goes by. So Gasly comes out ahead of Albon. That double stack did cost us just a little bit. But let's now check in with how we're looking. No pause. Let's just talk it through. Leclerc losing a ton of time right now. Perez, Russell losing a ton of time right now. Verstappen made the right move. Sainz is going to have to pit again. Guan Yu Zhou's losing a ton of time right now. Bottas is good. Those two are going to drive away. Norris, Ocon, Schumacher, Tsunoda all need to pit. Alonso is coming through. Yes, he's faster than those on the dry, but he's got to pit again. Hamilton, Ricciardo have to pit again. 4 cars. 4 cars got it right. And we have 2 of them. So we are going to gain. You could already see, here we are side by side with Gasly and pulling ahead because he's on the intermediates and we're on the full wets. And this is the way to make that happen. Right now, Pourchaire is in P9. Pourchaire is P9. Albon already up to P12 as we pass the start-finish line and pass that group that's just now pitting and lost a ton of time. Alonso, Hamilton, Ricciardo, Tsunoda, Schumacher, Gasly, Vettel, all in the pits. Leclerc, Russell, still probably to pit again. Norris, Ocon, probably are going to pit again or be off the pace. Tsunoda, Stroll, likely to pit again. So right now, as Albon goes around Ocon, Albon has gone around Ocon, who is on the intermediates.
Good job, good job.
He's now got Norris just ahead of him, who's also off the pace. Now's a good time, right? You want to get around Norris. We don't have DRS because it's pouring down rain. It is turned off through this period. We're past him, so back to neutral. So the two intermediates are behind us, and right now we run P9 and P10. Leclerc and Russell are going to continue to lose speed. We'll see if they pit. Heavy rainfall, 4.07, but we're almost into that lower category. So those intermediates could come back at us, but we're looking at heavy rain now. We're looking at more heavy rain in a couple of minutes. It's just Leclerc pits. Russell pits. They're heading to the wets. We're going to be ahead of them. We are going to be ahead of them. Maybe. They are coming out. They are exiting already. They had a pretty big advantage. Pourchaire goes ahead of Russell, but not Leclerc. Ocon and Norris pit. So they're going full wets, even though the track has actually dried out a little bit. But that puts everybody on the full wets, I believe. Distance to Verstappen. That's a big one. We're well off, but intervals. Verstappen well clear of Perez. He was the first to go onto the wets of the front six. And it shows. The Alfa Romeo's got things right. P3. Bottas was the other. Besides our two cars that got it right. He's all the way up in P3. And we're P8, P10 from the back of the grid. So, we got that call right. And it's absolutely pouring right now. 5.6 millimeters right now. That's a lot of water on track. Russell, 1.8 behind. Albon, 8.5 seconds clear of Alonso. Hamilton just behind. Okay, Russell's caught up. We backed off with Pourchaire a little bit, plus with the hot tires. 7 millimeters of rain, though, as Russell's looking to make a move, get on past. Leclerc has gotten around Magnussen, and Russell is about to finish off Pourchaire. But, hey, come on. P9, P10. Things are going great. Rain is lifting. Track is going to start drying out. Not what I wanted. This is not where I wanted a safety car. I loved how stretched out things were and how it was going for us. And that is two cars that should both be out of the race.
Okay, there's a big crash.
Norris picks up a penalty. No X by his name. He is not out. How does that happen? Schumacher is, but Norris somehow continues to go on. Safety car in this lap, so we want to start pushing. We have not quite caught up to the front of the grid yet. The fuel situation, though, taken care of, so we're good there.
It'll be good now.
Neutral. ERS is all nice and filled up for us. We're just catching the back end of the grid with Pourchaire as we go to restart the race. And here is Albon as well. Fortunately for us, only Hamilton has caught up at this point with Alonso. No, Alonso's coming flying up. He's going to have a big pace advantage, actually, as we get started here. But you can see the McLaren and Aston Martin going to the back as they are a lap down. So they blue flagged backwards. Dry weather coming. Predicted, but not yet. Pourchaire around Russell. Okay, so right now it is P9 and P11. Hamilton has brushed Albon off, but Pourchaire is battling with the Mercedes, which is just phenomenal. Track is slowly drying. It is not raining right now. It is just stopped, but the track is only slowly drying, so it is going to be quite a while still, but I think we're going to be remaining on the full wets. Go back to neutral, and let's check in on that race situation. So Verstappen leads from Perez. The Alphas are still 3 and 5 with the Ferraris 4 and 6. Magnussen is all the way up in P7. He was P6 earlier, but Leclerc had gotten by. He's got a gap. He's fallen off. He's 4 seconds behind those front 6. Russell, 2 seconds further back, and we are just a second down on Russell, with Hamilton breathing down our neck. Albon, 1.5 seconds behind. Alonso, 1.5 back. Ricciardo, 3. So those gaps starting to open up behind us. We really, truly are competitive with our race pace, at least in this race condition. Ocon, 14th, just behind Ricciardo. Gasly is 15th. 15 cars that are on the front lead lap, but then Tsunoda, Vettel, Norris, and Stroll all 1 lap down. They did not get back on the lead lap. So 4 cars that are a lap down and totally out of this race, plus Schumacher. So we're looking at top 15 guaranteed as long as we don't crash out. But of course, we do find ourselves competing in the points. And remember, we started P18 and P20 in this race. And here we are fighting for points as the track does continue to dry. Is everybody still on full wets? Yes, they are. In terms of tire wear, we've been pushing a little bit harder, but tire wear is not bad. But our last couple chances, the next window, the following couple windows after a brief sun popping out, and then right at the end of the race, you obviously wouldn't change anything there on the final lap or two. But yeah, so the next little period will determine if the track or how quickly the track dries out. But the tires are in much better shape after that safety car. Hamilton, having gotten around Pourchaire, makes us now P10, P11. Alonso is close, to Albon. We're going to have to back off with Albon a bit. Maybe at this point,
level 3.
Albon needs to kind of hold up Alonso just a bit and back off to give Pourchaire a bit more clearance for that P10 to hang on to it. 2.5 millimeters now. The moment we are coming up on 1. The right pit. Right now, we cannot double stack, so one of them might have to go a lap early or a lap late. Driver pace plus car, a little too strong for us.
Alpine just advanced.
But again, pitting at the right time as the track dries out could still see us in a pretty strong net gain for the day. I'm still fearful that we will not be able to remain in the points though as this thing progresses. Especially that safety car. That safety car cost us so much. Saved our tires. I don't care about that. Saved our fuel. I don't care about that. It cost us a lot of track position. Not necessarily our position in relation to the other cars, but our position in terms of gaps to other cars. It brought guys that were 10, 15, 30 seconds behind us. Albon, couple tenths faster than Pourchaire on that lap, and of course part of that lap was done. Oh, see, Pourchaire is overheating anyway. We might as well attack. Two Ferraris and a Alfa Romeo. Oh, and Ferrari wipes out the Alfa Romeo. That is Sainz with the penalty. And I don't know which one. Was it Bottas? Was it Guan Yu Zhou? Bottas was ahead of Sainz last I saw, so I'm guessing. In fact, Bottas was in front of both of them, right? So it's probably Bottas. Sainz into the pits straight away. So there we are. Moving back up. P9 and P11 at the moment. 1.3. Track nearly there. Track is nearly there, but we cannot pit too early. But that transition happens really quick. Porcher into the pits. 2.7
Box
flat
this
for
lap.
the stop.
Yes, the box.
1.03. 1.03. So as he's coming on track, it's almost perfect. It's almost perfect. 1.01 as he's exiting. 1.0. Look at that.
Dry weather.
Dry weather. Just like that. Just like that. Going aggressive.
DRS enabled.
And push for this lap. Push for this lap.
Okay, back off.
What's this gap like? Why does it feel like we're dropping back still, even though the track is in the dry range now? I mean, that's somebody on a wet compound behind us on a dry track. Does not make sense. Porcher going slow. Everybody in. I gotta push to try to gain something here, but I'm really nervous that thought we pit at the exact perfect time, and others are pitting, but I feel like the pace still wasn't quite there.
Let's reduce.
Full wets
just in case. Okay, copy.
in an intermediate range shouldn't be that fast. Full wets in a dry range should absolutely be losing a ton of time compared to the dry compound. But here's Albin back up into the top 10. Back into the top 10 for Albin. And Porcher. Will he get back up to 11th or will he stay 12th? 12th. From 9th down to 12th. 10th down to 12th. Albin, though, does inherit 11th. And you got a lot of guys on soft that aren't going to go to the end. Can this still benefit us? Guys coming out on the soft compound, they're not going to make it to the end on this compound. Have we gained enough now that the track is mostly dry to go ahead of these guys? Everybody's coming out on the softs, and I don't think they're going to make it to the end. Up to P9. Ocon was coming down pit road. Albin, Porcher up to P11 as he gets past Ocon as well. So that's P9, P11 right now. And I fear that the entire 8 have to pit again. Now, the front, 4 guys, way too fast for us. They're going to drive away, but can we catch Joe, Hamilton, Alonso, Magnussen late as they pit? They had about 26, 27 laps to do on tires that will only go 25 laps, but that's down to nothing. That's down to nothing. I don't think they're going to make the distance. Now, we are off the pace compared to Bottas. Bottas has caught up to him. We are easing off and taking care of our fuel at the moment. We are going the distance. We are going the distance, and it's down to P10. But 10th and 11th. But we've got a 5-second gap between us. I might not have the pace compared to the guys on the softs now, but one of two things are going to happen. They go the distance, they fall off the wall, we're going to be much faster at the end of this race. Or 2, they pit again. They pit again, and we gain 30 seconds. Now, break it off the intervals. Let's see what's 30 seconds look like. It's not going to be enough to beat Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez. They're going to gain that. But it is enough to maybe get Russell. It's definitely enough to get Guan Yu Zhou on down. 15 seconds? Absolutely. We're not losing 30 seconds to those guys over the next 20 laps. We'll drop back. We'll slip back further. Gasly faster now than what we were earlier. But can Porcher hold these guys up? His gap, 10 seconds to Albon. Right now we're thinking about getting Albon into the points. Not holding up long enough. Gasly goes by. I mean, you can see running the mediums just how long that's going to take us. Everybody else pit 1 lap, 2 laps later. Our mediums are going to struggle. Those softs. I saw what the pit strategy was like. We needed to pit at about lap 50 for the softs to make it. 52 for the softs to make it to the end. These guys all pit at about 46. Checking in on those softs. Look at this. All of these guys are already low to mid 60s. Low to upper 60s on their tire wear. We are at 70, 71. But that was the thing. We pit a couple laps before, but every single car on track now has worse tire wear than what we have. So we are going to start generating more pace than them here very, very soon. And Albon, Bottas have caught Magnussen. There we go. We've got to the inside. And it's not even Magnussen, it's Bottas. What happened there? I missed when Bottas got back ahead, but we're still battling it out, and we've done it. We are past Bottas into P9.
By Williams.
Lap 66, and nobody seems to want to pit. Our tire wear starting to mount, but here comes the trouble for a lot of these guys. They're already Perez at 43, Norris at 43, Ricciardo 44, Sainz 41 as he goes past Boucher, by the way. Boucher. Okay, Albon. You know, keep an eye on that so it doesn't get too low. Albon doesn't have full ERS because we did use some earlier in overtaking Ricciardo, I think it was. Sainz is 14 seconds back, so that's not a threat. We're in the points. 4 laps to go. We are in the points, but we've got to watch the fuel closely because we want to use it. We want to attack. We want to try to get past these guys before the end of the race. But closing back up, Albon has not done so easily. Perez has passed Verstappen up into second place. Leclerc has pulled away a bit. Tire wear, though. Tire wear. Guys into the 30s. Guys into the 30s. Nobody's pitting, so they are staying out. They are trying to go the distance. But we're very much looking at these last few laps. A few of these guys are going to be well off the pace. Get back into P9. Alonso still close ahead too. Bottas is closed up on Alonso. He's only 1.8 down now. And having a look to the inside with DRS. Not this time. He's got enough tire wear. He's okay. These guys made it work. Sainz now at 29%. He is now losing pace. Fully losing pace. He's falling off the wall, so off the cliff. He's going to be a lot slower. Can Porsche take advantage and get past for P11? But meanwhile, the guy in the points is the one that matters to us. Albon really closing up on Alonso now, but Bottas, I think, is pulling Magnussen, making it a lot harder for us to overtake. And Magnussen saved just enough tires here. One lap to go. It's okay. We're looking at another point today.
The final lap.
Verstappen gets back beyond Perez because of the 27% tire wear. Russell's about to fall off that cliff, but these guys have just made it work. Their tires have just held on. That's the flag. P10 though, in the points. In the points. And Porsche.
Yeah, copy, nice job.
Porsche just cannot get past Sainz. Sainz just too much. Too much for him. But there you go.
Checkered flag. Checkered flag.
Race done. P10, P12. Fantastic job by the team. Vettel and Stroll way behind us. The McLaren's way behind us. Both AlphaTauri's behind us. Heck of a race. that's going to do it for this episode. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe. See you next time. Have
What
a good
a
one.
pleasure it was
Be safe
to
out
watch
there.
Alex
Bye for
Albon
now.
on the track, and an amazing result to match.